My name is Lillian Brooks, and I ironed my navy dress the way my mother taught me, slow with steam, like blessing a day that might not deserve it. The invitation said for a clock sharp. My bus said otherwise. By the time the driver finally coughed us onto Maple Avenue, the church bells were already bragging. I hurried past a row of white boughs and a guest book that didn't look like it had room for handwriting, older than acrylic nails. The usher stopped me with a smile he learned from a brochure. Family of the bride or groom? He asked. Mother of the groom, I said, patting my scarf back into manners. He blinked, then glanced at the front pews where the important lace lived. One moment, he whispered to a woman with a headset. She whispered to a woman with a clipboard. The clipboard looked at me like a math problem. I'm sorry, she said. Not sorry at all. Those seats are taken. I looked where she was pointing. The front row was a porch of bridespeople in shimmer, groom side thin as a Wednesday. The place where my name should have been was holding a purse and a fur stole like they paid tithes. Where am I supposed to sit? I asked, calm as a shut door. Wherever you find room, she said. Already walking. So I found room in the third row, far left, behind a pillar that believed in privacy. When my son, Marcus, walked in, he looked taller and smaller at the same time. His tuxedo fit, but his eyes kept asking for permission. He scanned the crowd, searching, then landed on me. His shoulders dropped a half inch, the way they did when he was 5, and found me at the end of the slide. I lifted my hand. He smiled quick, almost secretan, then the music told him to turn. Jasmine, my new daughter-in-law, came down the aisle like a commercial for good decisions. Beautiful girl, smart when she wants to be. Her mother, Evelyn, floated behind her in glitter that made noise. When they reached the altar, the pastor asked, who presents this woman? Evelyn raised her chin and said, our family, like it was a brand. Vows were vows. Rings were rings. When the pastor said, you may kiss, Evelyn sniffed like someone had opened Tupperware. The crowd laughed in the right places. I held my hands together the way you do when you're keeping them from voting. At the reception, a chandelier tried to hard and the DJ tried harder. Place cards marched across tables in loopy gold. I found mine near the kitchen door where the waiters blessed you by accident. The mother of the groom cards sat at the head table with someone else's name on it. Evelyn posed there, left of the bride, like a queen who had done the paperwork. I took a breath that had edges. The waiter refilled my water glass until the ice clinked like a warning. When Marcus made his speech, he thanked our families, then thanked Evelyn for stepping up so much these last months. He didn't say my name. That's all right. God and I know it. Halfway through dinner, Jasmine came to me with a smile that didn't touch her cheeks. Lillian, I'm so glad you made it. We were worried the bus. You know. I made it, I said. She nodded at my seat. I hope you're comfortable. I looked her in the eye, steady. Comfort is for sofas. I'm here to bless you. For a moment, the real Jasmine peeked out, the girl who used to eat my peach cobbler on my porch and ask how long to bake it. Then Evelyn tapped her arm with a lacquered nail. Pictures, darling, she sang. Jasmine floated away when the dancing started. I slipped outside to the courtyard where the air hadn't learned the dress code. I sat on a stone bench and let the night speak. That's when I heard, through the open catering door, to voices I know too well. She didn't contribute, so why would she sit up front? Evelyn said, laughing quiet and mean. Marcus said his mother's on a budget. Let her enjoy the ambience. The planner murmured something about etiquette. Evelyn snorted. Etiquette is for people who can afford chairs. I closed my eyes and put my hand on the stone. Cool and honest. Money bought the flowers. Money bought the sparkle. Money did not buy my boy. I reminded my bones of that. I didn't make a scene. I went back in, hugged my son, kissed the bride, and left before cake. Because sometimes dignity has an early bedtime. The next morning, my phone rang at 6:12. Marcus, the sound of a man who slept beside a problem. Mom, he said. Voice thin. Are you awake? I am now. I need help. There was a sentence that happens after a party. What happened? He took a breath that sounded like receipts. The venue called. The balance. It didn't clear. The card declined. They're threatening to lock the gift room and call it theft. Whose card? Jasmine's mom's, he whispered. She said she handled everything. She told us to focus on being happy, and you were, I said. Not unkind. I was, he said. For a minute. What do you need from me? I asked. I need your mind, he said. Not your money. That woke something proud. Good answer. He explained fast. Evelyn had insisted on being point of contact, telling vendors to invoice her, then put deposits on a card with more gloss and credit. The morning after, the florist wanted the remainder, the venue wanted theirs. The DJ wanted his truck back, and the planner wanted her dignity replaced. I signed nothing. Marcus said, but everything is in my name because I'm the groom, because you're the easiest person to find. I said, all right, Here's what we'll do. We met at my apartment with coffee that forgives and toast that doesn't. Jasmine arrived late, mascara tired. She hugged me like she remembered who taught her the cobbler. I'm sorry about yesterday, she said, eyes honest. I lost you in a room full of people. You'll find me today, I said. Evelyn arrived last, carrying a purse like a verdict. I don't have time for a family tribunal, she announced, sitting without waiting. Everything will be fine once the banks open. These small venues panic. I slid a folder onto the table, printouts Marcus had pulled. Photos of contracts that listed her email but his name. Messages with phrases like time is of the essence, and a text where she told the planner. Bride and groom are overwhelmed, bill me. I'll settle after the honeymoon. Evelyn, I said, polite as a hymnal. You use my son's name as a napkin. She rolled her eyes. Oh, Lillian. If you had stepped up, we wouldn't be in this mess. Stepped up. I raised a brow. I covered his braces and his band trips, and the engine that died in the winter of '09. I step up so often the stairs know my weight. I didn't pay for your chandelier. Jasmine flinched. Mom, she whispered. Did you tell the venue you had authority? I made it happen, Evelyn snapped. You just wanted a fairy tale. Fairies send invoices. I turned to Marcus. Call the venue. Put me on speaker. He did. I spoke with the manager in a voice that has soothed fever. And stopped 3 fights in a church parking lot. This is Lillian Brooks, mother of the groom. You have unpaid balances. We have a confusion of authority. Please listen, the signatory you have isn't the groom. Do not release gifts to anyone but him. Do not charge a card that isn't tied to a valid contract. We are assembling documents and will be there by 9 with counsel if needed. Counsel? The manager asked. We'll bring the law, I said. Or, if you prefer, we'll bring the truth first and a law second. Silence, then a soft. I would appreciate the truth. Good, I said. You'll have it. I hung up and looked at Evelyn. Now, here's your part. You will call every vendor you charmed and tell them you lack authority to bind my son. You will send written confirmation that you acted as a volunteer, not as an agent. You will apologize, and you will mean it later if not now. She laughed high and thin. Or what? Or we involve a judge who wakes up happier than you and enjoys words like fraud before breakfast. I said. And while we're eating, we'll mention that you interfered with the gift room. Jasmine covered her mouth. Marcus didn't blink. Evelyn's phone lit up the florist. Then the planner. Then a number labeled venue. She silenced them one by one like mosquitoes. You like to bargain. Lillian. She said finally. Fine, I'll pay the florist. The venue can wait. No, I said. Everyone waits until we see the contracts. Then we pay what's owed. Not what's shouted. I stood, took my purse and nodded to my son. Let's go collect your gifts and your dignity. Jasmine grabbed her coat. Evelyn stayed seated, clinging to her purse like a cliff dot at the venue. The manager met us with a ledger and a tired smile. Thank you for coming, she said. We prefer to settle with adults. Me too, I said. We reviewed everything line by line, breath by breath. Where Evelyn had signed under authorized representative, the ink looked hurried. Where Marcus's name was typed, it wasn't his hand. The manager took photos and mailed copies and locked the gift room with us present. We signed a release stating nothing would leave until the accounts were corrected. When we stepped back into the cold, Marcus sagged with relief. Jasmine leaned into him like a vow that would outlive the flowers. Back at my place. Evelyn was gone. On the table sat her first stole and a note that said, handle it, then thank me. The tone smelled like last night's glitter. Marcus rubbed his eyes. What do we do now? We keep records, I said. We call a lawyer. We pay what we truly owe. And we learn. Learn what? Jasmine asked. That help without permission is just control in a fancy dress, I said. And that next time, you put your mother of the groom seat in ink before you order the cake. They laughed, a small, grateful sound. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Double quotes, Mrs. Brooks. A woman asked. This is Laura Chen, the wedding planner. I need to tell you something about Evelyn. I looked at Marcus and Jasmine. Go on. She opened a credit line and the couple's names through our vendor portal using the pre-filled forms. Laura whispered. I thought it was authorized. I'm so sorry. I have the IP logs and emails. If you want them, they're yours. I wrote down the details and thanked her. After we hung up, I exhaled. This, I said, tapping the page, is why their joy turned into a nightmare. But nightmares end when you name them. Jasmine took my hand. Will you stay with us through this? I will, I said. On one condition. What? At the next family event. I'm not hunting for a seat, Marcus smiled. Front row, center, name card in bold. Good, I said and put the kettle on. Now let's teach to young people how to turn glitter back into paper. Laura, the planner, arrived with a folder and a face that had slept badly. She set everything on my table like a nurse laying out instruments. I'm so sorry, she said. I thought Evelyn had authority. She moved fast. She used words like urgent and bridal emergency. I should have slowed her down. Today. You did, I said. That counts. Marcus read the emails. Jasmine, read the fine print. I read the parts people pretend not to see. There was a vendor portal account opened with the couple's names, billing address pulled from the invitation list, and a credit line pre-approved because the system liked tidy forms. The IP logs pointed to Evelyn's condo. The digital signature was hers, not theirs. Good, I said. Now we give the truth a file number. I called a lawyer I trust, Mr. Patel, calm voice. Careful shoes. He came by before lunch with a notepad and a pen that looked heavier than it was. First, he said, we freeze what can still run. We'll send a written notice to every vendor. You've been dealing with a person who lacked authority. Do not extend credit. Do not charge cards. Do not release gifts except to the groom and bride. He drafted the letter in plain English and firm punctuation. Marcus signed. Jasmine signed. Laura signed as witness. I watched the ink dry like you watch a cake rise steady and sure. Second, Mr. Patel said. We dispute the new credit line. The portal will argue that someone consented. We'll answer with logs and the planner's statement. Third, he added. We talked to the venue and florist again. We will pay what the couple actually ordered and approved. Nothing more. And Evelyn? Jasmine asked. Dopmer. Patel tucked the pen into his jacket. She'll have choices, he said. Confess and cooperate or explain herself to a judge. We started with the venue. The manager met us in her office with 2 cups of coffee and a ledger that no longer looked angry. I got your lawyer's letter, she said. Thank you. We'll hold the gifts until this is clean. We're not dodging, Marcus said. We'll pay the balance on the items. Jasmine, an actually authorized menu, haul. Ours, but not the extras that were added behind our backs. She flipped to a page. Dance floor upgrade, signature wall, customized sculpture. I looked at my son. Did you order a frozen swan? He didn't smile. No, ma'am. The manager drew a neat line through ice sculpture swan and rope void. You're not my first wedding like this, she said quietly. You might be the most polite. We paid what was proper, got a stamped receipt, and walked out lighter by money and heavier by relief. At the florist. A woman in an apron met us with eyes that said she'd been blamed by better people. Mr. Patel explained. She checked the work order. I see the add-ons, she sighed. Those came in late. I'm happy to adjust. She sliced 36 extra orchids from the invoice like a chef removing fat. We paid the rest. She handed Jasmine a small bouquet for the card that looked like an apology and smelled like the truth. By the time we reached the DJ, the story had traveled ahead of us. He shook Marcus's hand. I just want my base fee, he said. The rest was upgrades from a lady who thinks suboffers make a marriage. Thank you, Marcus said and meant it. Then came the hard one. Evelyn. She texted, do not threaten me at 2:07 p.m. Followed by you're welcome. Followed by I have a reputation. Bring her here, I told Jasmine. Neutral ground. Short meeting. Many years. Evelyn arrived in sunglasses and a coat that made its own weather. She looked around my apartment as if it had nerve. Before we start, Mr. Patel said, I need to record that this conversation may be used to clear accounts. You're free to step outside, she said. I have nothing to hide. Good, I said. Then this will be quick. Mr. Patel slid the planner's printouts toward her. These are the logs and emails opening a credit line in the couple's names. This is your IP address. This is your digital signature. These are the vendor forms where you wrote authorized representative next to your name. I made the wedding happen, she said. You're welcome. You made that happen, I said, steady. You wrote checks with people's names that don't belong to you. Evelyn adjusted her sunglasses though we were indoors. I'll fix it when the bank clears, she said. You're all being dramatic. Mr. Patel laid down a 1-page agreement. Here are the steps. You will send a formal email to each vendor acknowledging you lacked authority to bind the couple. You will agree to pay any balance on extras you order directly from your funds, not through accounts in their names. You will not contact the venue or planner except in writing. You will not request access to the gift room or any of the couple's accounts. She stared at the paper like it had insulted her coat. Or what? Or we file a police report for attempted fraud and seek a protective order, Mr. Patel said pleasantly, as if describing the weather. Also, the venue has cameras. The internet is quick. Silence pressed its ear to the door. Jasmine reached out a hand, small, tired. Honest. Mom, please. We just want the truth where money should be. Something changed then, not all the way, but enough. Evelyn removed the sunglasses. Her eyes were red at the edges. Her mouth remembered how to be a mother. I wanted it to be perfect, she said. You wanted it to be yours, I answered. Kind of a plain. That's not the same thing, she signed. Her signature looked smaller than last night's glitter. Mr. Patel countersigned as witness. He scanned and sent copies to everyone who mattered, including Evelyn. So nobody could pretend ink forgets. Evelyn stood. Are you happy now, Lillian? I'm peaceful, I said. Happiness is cake. Peace is bread. She left without closing the door. Jasmine closed it for her with a palm that shook only after it latched. Marcus pressed his forehead to the edge of my cabinet. Thank you, he whispered. I should have seen this coming. You saw your bride, I said. That's what you were supposed to see. The next stop was the bank that serviced the vendor portal. Mr. Patel slid the logs and letters to the manager and said, freeze the line. Dispute all charges. Remove these names from any account they did not open. The manager skimmed, then nodded. We'll flag this for fraud, she said. Account suspended pending review. No hits to the couple's credit. Jasmine sank into the chair like someone had taken a backpack off her. That she didn't know she was wearing dubbed by evening. The list was shorter, balances corrected. Give secured, letters sent, screenshots saved, copies filed. Laura, the planner, delivered a binder with tabs and a receipt for her reduced fee. I should have asked for the real authority, she said. I will from now on, you will. I agreed. We ordered takeout and ate at my little table. The gifts still locked at the venue could wait. Peace tastes better hot dog. Marcus lifted his chopsticks, then set them down. I didn't say your name in my speech, he said, eyes on the carton. I wanted to. Evelyn pushed the schedule. The word slipped. Next time, I said, teasing. He laughed through his nose. No next time, then use your life, I said. Say my name with your choices. He reached across and squeezed my hand. I will. Jasmine looked at me. Can we fix the C part, too? She asked. Not just the bills? Yes, I said. That's the part that costs and tension. We planned a small family supper the next weekend. No chandeliers. Soup, bread, a playlist that didn't bruise ears. We invited the few who know the difference between celebration and performance. I arrived 10 minutes early out of habit. My place card sat at the head of the table, not because I demanded it, but because my son and his wife finally understood where a mother sits when the room is full of love. During dessert, Jasmine stood and lifted her glass. To Lillian, she said, voice steady. You taught me the difference between help and control. You kept us from drowning in sparkle. You showed me how to start a marriage with honesty. Everyone clinked. I nodded once. The way you do when you accept a compliment you would have traded for wisdom a day earlier, later. When we walked to the street, Marcus stopped at the curb. I'm changing my account passwords, he said. And I'm setting our boundaries in writing. Good, I said. Put them on paper you can point to when people pretend not to understand. He smiled. Like mother, like son, 2 weeks came and went. Evelyn paid the extras she had added resentfully at first, then mechanically. The way people pay diets. She tried twice to spin the story in her favor. It didn't travel far. Facts are slow. But they have good shoes. The venue released the gift room to Marcus and Jasmine. They opened cards at my place because quiet makes gratitude easier. There were checks, notes, and a recipe from a great aunt that said marriage equals kind plus money in an envelope. We laughed and ate leftover cake on mismatched plates that tasted like a do-over. When the night got thin, Jasmine hugged me long. What do I owe you? She asked. Nothing, I said. But here's my fee when you have a daughter and someone tries to seat you behind a pillar. You will not ask for a chair. You will bring one. I will. She promised. Marcus kissed the top of my head. Front row forever, he said. Seat with a view, I answered. And a name carved in bold. A month later, I got a small envelope from the venue. Inside was a photo the photographer had printed for me, Marcus and Jasmine dancing. My face in the background, half turned, smiling at something only I could see. On the back, the manager had written, "Thank you for handling this with grace. You taught my staff a lesson we won't forget." I put the photo on my shelf next to a bowl of peach pits I'm saving for a summer project. When the kettle sang, I poured tea and wrote 3 sentences in my notebook. Etiquette without consent is just theater. Help without permission is control in a fancy dress. A mother's seat is not a favor. It's architecture. I slid the notebook back under the sugar bowl in my little safe. Then I stood at the window and watched the street learn another truth. You don't have to shout to be heard. You just have to keep your receipts, keep your word, and keep your chair. 2 Saturdays later, the church hosted a small thank you lunch for volunteers who had helped clean the fellowship hall. After the wedding, I brought peach bars because some apologies go down easier with butter. I didn't expect Evelyn. She arrived late, coat folded over her arm like a surrender flag someone ironed. No glitter, no sunglasses, just a woman who'd been arguing with a mirror. She hovered at the doorway until the usher waved her in. For a heartbeat she looked like Jasmine at 8, trying to find her classroom. Lillian, she said, stopping a chair's length away. Do you have a minute? 2? I said. Use them well. She took a breath that traveled a long road. I've sent the last confirmations to the vendors, she said. Balance is paid. I also wrote letters to the venue staff and the planner. No excuses. Her eyes flicked toward the serving table. You make that crust with lard or butter? Both, I said. Mercy is a blend that almost earned a smile. It faded. I thought if I handled the wedding, it would prove I still mattered, she said, voice quiet. My house is empty now. My phone rings only when a dentist wants to confirm. Controlling the room felt like companionship. Control isn't company, I said. It just talks louder. She nodded, shoulders loosening like a knot accepting its fate. I embarrassed you, she said. I moved your son around like furniture and told myself it was design. She met my eyes. I'm sorry. Thank you, I said. Now keep being sorry with your steps, I will, she said. Jasmine asked me to take a class on event ethics with her. I signed up. She glanced at the folding chairs, plain metal, honest. If I ever host again, I'll remember the architecture. Good, I said. Put the mothers in the front row. Put your pride by the coat rack. We stood there like two porches facing the same street. Then she cleared her throat. May I sit with you? You may, I said, and tapped the chair beside me. Here, plenty of room. She sat. People get quiet around a truce. Even the lemonade behaved. That evening, Marcus and Jasmine invited both families to their apartment for something they called a rave-house supper. No speeches, they promised, just soup. The table bore proof: bowls, bread, a vase with 3 peonies leaning like they knew who kept them watered. When everyone found a place, Jasmine stood anyway. One small thing, she said, smile nervous and true. She held up a card with my name large, bold. She placed it at the head of the table, not to crown me, but to correct the blueprint. To Lillian, she said, you taught us the difference between help and handling. We promised to keep these seats right in our house and in our hearts. There was a quiet that tasted like citrus and relief. Then fork music. Then laughter that hadn't visited in a while. Halfway through, Evelyn lifted her glass. To the bride and groom, she said. And to the mother of the groom who kept the floor from tilting. She didn't look at me for approval. She looked at her daughter for permission. Jasmine nodded. That's how you know a lesson landed. After dessert, Marcus walked me to the elevator. I changed all our passwords, he said, grinning. Printed boundaries on the fridge. No contracts without both signatures. Put one more line, I said. See for mother reserved, he laughed. Yes, ma'am. A week later, Laura asked me to speak 5 minutes at a vendor workshop she was hosting. Guardrails for wedding. Pros, I said yes. Then wrote 4 sentences on an index card and left the rest to plain talk. If the person paying isn't in the room, you're not ready to invoice. A signature is not a shrug. Manners without consent is theater. If a mother is behind a pillar, somebody failed architecture. They clap the way people do when they recognize the mess they've made, and are grateful for a broom. On my way out, the florist pressed a small bouquet into my hand. White peonies, shy as fireworks. For your kitchen, she said. For building the right kind of room. One warm night in June, I sat on my stoop with a glass of water and watched the block do what blocks do. Neighbors wave. A teenager test a skateboard. A dog explain itself to a hydrant. Jasmine texted me a photo. My name card, tucked in the corner of their china hutch like a compass. Marcus sent a picture of the boundaries print out on their fridge with a magnet shaped like a peach. I smiled and opened my notebook. The page smelled faintly of sugar and ink. I wrote, some seats are given. Some are taken. The right ones are built, sturdy, level, with your name carved deep. Glitter fades. Receipts keep. Love learns the floor plan, or stops rearranging the furniture. I tore the page out and slid it under the sugar bowl with the others. That's my safe, no combination but time and care. Then I locked my door, checked my kettle, and slept like a woman who knows exactly where her chair is. 2 months later, the church basement smelled like coffee and folding chairs. Jasmine's aunties were fussing with ribbons. The men were arguing gently with the grill. It wasn't a second wedding, just something better. A thank you supper for the people who helped pull glitter back into paper and keep love in its seat. I brought peach cobbler. I always do. Marcus met me at the door with a smile that didn't ask permission. Your place is set, he said, and he didn't point. I could see it. Front table, center, a plain card that read Lillian, mother. No gold foil. No flourish. Just correct. Evelyn arrived in a blue dress that looked like she finally believed in fabric more than sparkle. She walked over with her palms open. I mailed my last check, she said. I mailed 2 apologies I owed. And I signed up to volunteer with the planner's ethics class. If they'll have me, they will, I said. You'll stack chairs and learn a better music, she nodded. When Jasmine slipped her arm through her mother's, they both looked taller for choosing the humble thing. During dinner, Marcus stood with his glass. To my wife, he said, looking at Jasmine like the invoice was paid. Then he turned to me. To my mother. When my name went missing, you found it. When the room forgot, you taught us the architecture. I lifted my water and led everyone else to the clinking. Praise is sweet, but peace is bread after. A little committee of nieces dragged me to a corner for photos. One with the chair. They giggled, pointing at my place card. We laughed and took at me in the middle. Their heads crowded around like a bouquet that hadn't learned restraint. On my walk home, the heat lay low on the street, soft as an apology that finally meant it. I sat on my stoop, opened my notebook and wrote, "A mother's place isn't a favor. It's a beam. You don't save it, you build around it." Control talks loud. Love lays out chairs, labels them true, and keeps receipts. I slid the page under the sugar bowl with the others. That book's getting thick. That's what happens when you live through things on purpose. A week later, Laura the planner texted a photo from her workshop, a slide that said help does not equal control. And beneath it, if mom is behind a pillar, someone failed architecture. I smiled into my tea and sent back a peach emoji and a heart. Modern ministry. Evelyn sent a shorter note than she used to. Booked the ethics class. Brought coffee. Sat front row. No performative punctuation. That's a fruit, too. Jasmine came by with takeout and a story about learning to say no with a soft voice and firm verbs. I told my boss I can't draft contracts from my phone anymore, she said. He asked who taught me boundaries. I said, my family. Put it on the fridge, I said. Everything that matters should be at eye level. Marcus replaced the batteries in my smoke detector and didn't make a speech about it. That's how a son says I see you without moving furniture. On the first cool evening of September, we ate outside of their place soup, bread, a peony in a chip jar. When it was time to bless the food, Jasmine looked at me, not to hand over power, but to share it. Lillian, she said, will you build this seat with us? I will, I said, and my amen fit the room later. When the lights were low and the city was kind, I stood in their doorway and watched them tidy the evening to people returning chairs to where they belonged. Front row forever, Marcus mouthed, tapping the spot where my card had sat in bold. I mouthed back. I walked home slow, the night agreeing with my knees. Inside, the kettle sang the way it sings when it knows the hands that set it on the back burner. I poured, I tasted. I let the quiet say my name and set it back. Some stories end with glitter. The good ones end with furniture that doesn't wobble. And when anybody asks me now where a mother sits, I don't point. I hand them a hammer asterisk.